Have you ever had to advise a young person like what to do?
Sometimes. I mean, it's hard for me. Like, I get a lot of people asking, like, oh, should I go to school for it? My background is design. And so people ask me, like, should I go to school to be a web designer? And I'm like, I got a job in the 90s as a web designer when my only qualification was that I knew what the internet was. It's like I don't know what to say to younger people about things like that. But if they're asking about business things, then it's like, okay, well, think about how you want to spend your day is the first thing, and think about is this something that you can kind of start slowly so you don't have to like push all of your chips in and spend all of the money that you have or money that you borrow or money that investors gives you to try something, because we don't know. Like I said, we don't know how things are going to work out. So if we start things in the smallest way possible, and then if it works, grow it. And then if that works, grow it again. It's just like the book, Company One, that we're talking about. That started out as an article. And if the article hadn't got the traction that it got, I wouldn't have pitched it to an agent who wouldn't have pitched it to a publisher, who wouldn't have asked me to write the book and given me money to write the book. Like these things, all of the things in my life only exist as far as business goes because I tested them in the tiniest way possible. It took me 30 minutes to write an article. Didn't cost me any money. And I put it out there and I saw, okay, what's this going to do? Honestly, I thought it was a throwaway piece. I wrote an article called I Don't Care About Growth. I sent it to my mailing list. And I was just like, this is just going to explain to people why I do business in the way that I do. And I usually get a couple hundred replies to my emails. I think I got like 1,400 or 1,500 people reply to that one.
Whoa.
And I was like, this is something. It's just like I run an analytics company. It started because I was sick of Google Analytics. I drew a mock-up of what I thought analytics should look like, and I tweeted it out. It took me an hour, and everybody was like, oh, I want that. Like, how can I give you money for this thing? And then I was like, okay, well, how can I build it in a tiny way possible that takes a couple weeks? Put it out there. I put it out open source. It got downloaded 1 million times. I was like, okay, for the non-nerds who don't know how to work on servers and do like command line stuff, I could sell this. And so like everything starts out as like a tiny, tiny thing. And then if it works, it grows. And then if it works, it grows a bit more. So I didn't have to go out and look for venture funding for that kind of thing. I didn't have to write a book and think, I don't know if this is going to sell. Because I already knew the idea was popular because I tested it with a group of people who were interested. Right? So
Yeah.
I think for young, coming back to your question, I think for younger people, it's important to take that huge idea that you have and figure out how can you make it the smallest thing possible to start to see if it works. And then if it does, it can get bigger. And if it doesn't, you haven't wasted that much time. So you can move on to another idea.
Yeah. It's so weird. I'm like, you're going against the grain because that's essentially what most people don't think that's how you should approach things. It's funny because I started my business a similar way. It's like I'm like people ask me like, how did you start your business? How did you get into this thing? Did you like get a loan? Did you get a business license? Did you get a warehouse? Did you get an office? I'm like, no, none of that. That all came after. Like, the first thing I figured to do is if I could make money.
Yeah.
And then once I was like, oh, I could do this thing. I made, I doubled my $1 into $2, my $2 into $4. And then I'm like, oh, then now we have a budget to spend and like maybe get other things and do the thing, get a place, I literally started in my bedroom. That's my first business. Then I moved into the garage kind of thing, And so I'm like, I realized that like for me, not having any business background, I barely had any schooling. I only went to school for like 6 years. And, at times I think that is a curse because I didn't learn any social skills. I didn't, there's a ton of stuff that I'm lacking. But at times some people have said to me and pointed out that like, no, it's kind of a double-edged sword too. That is the reason why you're looking at these things from a slightly different angle. And that is, maybe that gives you a tiny bit edge on how to do the thing.
I dropped out of school too. Like I've got no education. I mean, I got hand tattoos, dude. I can't walk into a bank and get a loan. That's not going to happen. I have to make my own money.
That's so weird because I didn't even notice them. I've been looking at your hands, but I at no point did I think
It just kind of blends into me.
It's things are changing, right? Which is a good segue, I think, to like, do you think this being a one, like you said, it sounds good. Like, I manage this company, multinational, 1,000 employees. Like, that thing, I would be impressed. I would be, you know, I would think that's a cool thing like 5 years ago. Today, you tell me that, and I'm like, well, okay, whatever. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm a company of 3. You know, I don't care. Like, I don't care that, like, I'm not impressed. So I guess because I'm not impressed anymore by things like that, I guess I'm not looking to impress others by saying, like, hey, I have, like, a huge company or something.